friend. I want to go to Andrew McCarthy. You know him well, former assistant U.S. attorney, Fox News contributor. Andrew, I'm going to ask you a series of maybe simplistic questions, but just allow me to catch up here. One is, if there is a conviction on any one of these other charges, 91 in all now, would that take him out of the presidential running? Would a conviction change that? Or constitutionally, can he keep running regardless?
Constitutionally, Neil, he can keep running. The only qualifications for the presidency in the Constitution are that one has to be over 35, a natural-born citizen, and 14 years resident in the United States. There's no other qualifications. Now, if Congress decided that he couldn't do the job, they could impeach him if they thought there was anything in here or anything else they were aware of that was worthy of impeachment. But he would not be disqualified from seeking office by being indicted or convicted in state court.
You know, using RICO, the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Law, that was generally reserved in the past, for the most part. I'm not saying because of my Italian heritage I know this, but usually mob figures. So I'm wondering, right. You know, is this case a bit of a stretch? Forget about the overlap with what, you know, Mr. Smith is doing. I am wondering whether there is the potential of this looking like a reach, much as in Smith's case, you know, going back to some, you know, slavery owning times in making some charges against the former president there as well.
Neil, if it makes you feel any better, in my old life, my office used it against those Irish guys known as the Westies in Manhattan. So I feel your pain. But I really think that it's a mistake for her to have brought a RICO case. I know she says she has experience in these prosecutions. I don't think this is a well thought out RICO. And I think in a nutshell, you know, the problem that she has is the main thing that was the objective of the people that she has tried to cast as a racketeering enterprise was to retain Trump in office. So that was like a sort of a temporally fleeting objective. It wasn't a money-generating thing. Like, generally speaking, in the kind of organized crime entities that we're talking about, the reason that you have RICO is because there's an economic purpose to it. They generate money through the commission of a series of crimes, et cetera. Here, the objective here was not to be a member of a group, like it is in a mafia case where, you know, the objective is to be a member of the mafia family and to generate income through its activities. Here, the objective was a lawful one, which they may have used unlawful means occasionally to try to get over the finish line, which was to retain Trump in power. But that's not the kind of glue that would keep a racketeering organization together. So I just think that she's groping for a crime. What she really needs is a simple conspiracy that has a simple objective. A conspiracy is simply an agreement by two or more people to violate another law, you know, some criminal law. And if retaining Trump in office was a crime, then she'd have an easy, simple, straight line conspiracy. She really doesn't have that because the objective is not illegal, even if some of the means they use to try to obtain the objective may have been.
So she wants a speedy trial. You know, everyone on the prosecution side wants a speedy trial for their various cases. The former president obviously wants to push this back. And how is that kind of stuff resolved, Andy?
Well, I've been in a case with 22 defendants, where we had 19 who went to verdict. That remains the longest federal criminal trial in American history, I believe, the 17-month Pizza Connection case back in the 80s. And I think we took 2 years to get to trial.
Wow.
And I then did a terrorism case in the 90s, the Blind Shake case, where we started with 12 defendants, and that took nearly 2 years to get to trial as well. Here, she's not only indicted 19 people, Neil, she's indicted a bunch of people who were lawyers. And these lawyers are going to get more lawyers, and they're going to file like the Manhattan, if people still remember what the Manhattan phone book looked like back in ancient times. But the motions in this
right.
case are going to be very, very extensive. I can't see this case getting to trial, but I would just caution people that, you know, part of the state system is that your prosecutors are elected, not appointed. So it's an inherently political system. And I think a lot of what Fani Willis may have wanted to achieve here, she achieved by filing the indictment.
All right, you're talking about the Fulton County DA, Fani Willis. One quick last question for you.
Right.
We're told that what makes this Georgia case more problematic, Andy, is that the president can't pardon himself out of it, that there would have to be even a requirement that if he were convicted on anything and he had to spend 5 years in prison before he could be pardoned at all, and not by the governor, but by a state board of paroles and pardons. So that could weigh on the former president. This could be the most delicate of all, right?
Yeah, we've never had a situation, and this goes to your first question, which is a great question. It's just like decided by the Constitution that, you know, there's no disqualification involved here. But I think the point you're making is that as a practical matter, the idea that you would have somebody who was seeking the presidency or even elected to the presidency who's looking at, say, I don't think much of a RICO charge, but say he were convicted of it and was looking at a mandatory minimum 5 years in Georgia State Prison, that would put us in a place we've never been before. And I have a feeling that if somebody tells you they know how that's going to come out, then, you know, they're either under an illusion or they're smoking something.
I'm just encouraged that the Irish were also brought under RICO statutes as well. So thank you for keeping that fair and balanced. Andrew, great seeing you again. I appreciate it.